Hello, everyone. Welcome back.
Hang
Oh,
on.
well, welcome back to the podcast. It's great to have you with us. Just quickly, Ryan is driving at
Just
the
waving.
moment, so he's just on the hands free, but that means he's got no video. And as you all know, usually we do the waving for the TikTok thing at the start, but if you've got no video, who's going to know? It's like one of those if the tree falls in the forest kind of situations. Like, you know, is he
Waving.
waving if no one can see him?
Waving. 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 It's
To be
dark.
fair,
Waving.
to be fair, I think I like him better without being able to see him.
Yeah, makes sense. I don't blame you.
That white round dot looks way better.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're missing seeing Ryan's face, you'll have to, I don't know, go back and watch a previous episode or something. But
And if my audio gets too crap or I cut out, then I'll just vanish at some stage. So you guys will be lucky if I do.
so fingers crossed. But yeah. So what have you guys been up to recently? Have you had any good fish related stories to tell? People.
I've got some shit fish related stories. Is that fun?
I don't really have any cool ones from this week from my fish room, but I did do some work yesterday for a client, and I noticed on her dresser in her room she had a little container of guppy food.
Hold on. Did you check the Fair Go cameras, and are we going to be seeing you on Catch a Predator anytime soon?
There was no sniffing involved. Okay. So
all right.
But I guess, for lack of a better word, sort of like as I was doing my job, discreetly sniffing around for where the fish tank was, because I saw the guppy food. So I was sniffing for the fishing, and eventually I asked her. I said, "So where's the fish?" I said, "Food. Where's the fish?" And she had a pond outside, like a real cool tub pond almost, with plants and shit growing out of it, and pearl danios that she leaves outside all year round.
Cool.
So I would not have thought that pearl danios would survive all year round, but yeah, it was full of pearl danios.
Whereabouts was this? Up north.
Up north, about half an hour north of Auckland. Or half an hour further north of Auckland is Puhoi by the pub. Puhoi pub.
Oh, random. Yeah, I wouldn't have thought it'd be warm enough for them, but evidently so.
Oh, I did say to her, I was like, "Are you sure they're not?" But they were swimming way too fast to be white cloud mountain minnows because they were zipping everywhere. And I was like, "That's some sort of danio." I said, "Oh, danio?" And she's like, "Yeah, pearl danio. That's the one." And a certain big store in Auckland sold them to her, so she's happy as just cold water fish. So yeah.
How long have they been outside for? Have they done a full cycle?
Yeah, they've done a couple of years outside.
Awesome.
So filters didn't last long. But last winter in Auckland was very mild though.
So was that their first winter? Had they done previous winters before that?
From the sounds of it, it was probably their first winter.
Oh yeah.
But yeah.
So I suppose if it's colder this winter, we'll be able to tell more.
And they've repopulated in spring, obviously.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's pretty cool. That's a cool little system to have.
Yeah, I probably still wouldn't recommend. Pearl danios outside all year round, but it worked for this lady. She tried guppies, but she said they died within a week of getting put in the tub. So the pearl danios are what it is.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, what about you, Cam? Have you had anything exciting going on?
No, I've had the opposite.
What? Tell me about it.
I've had tragic fish death.
Oh, from what?
L168.
What happened?
Oh shit! What
happened? I don't know what happened. I found a dead one yesterday. Took it out. Found another dead one this morning. So I decided to test some water parameters. Ammonia 0, nitrite is about 1. So I'm assuming it's nitrite poisoning, which has killed at least one of them. But yeah, I don't quite know why the nitrite has gotten to that point. But yeah, that's just a little bit gutting, and it's kind of pissed me off somewhat. So yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. Damn, that's not ideal.
Yeah.
Established tank, obviously.
Yeah, they've been in there for, I don't know, 12 months or so, just the 3 of them, and about 180 litres. So, like, it's not like it's overstocked. It goes through the maintenance like every other tank. I think it was done, had water changes done on it last week, probably. So I can't quite pinpoint why it's skyrocketed to that point or what happened there. So, yeah.
And nitrites,
That's the one in between. Is he gone? I think he's gone.
Oh, I think we lost him. But yeah, no, that's lame. I mean, the only thing I can really think of is like the old tank kind of syndrome they call it, I guess. But I feel like you'd be able to tell if that happened ahead of time, you know, or like by now.
I thought old tank syndrome had been debunked a few times.
Well, I mean, I don't know really. It probably depends all the definitions in that. But I just mean when you get the KH drop and then everything gets thrown out from it. I don't actually know if that's what you call it, but the KH troubles that you can run into after a bit of time.
Yeah, but that's normally after multiple years, not like we've only been in the building for 18 months or so. So,
yeah.
It's not like it's ridiculously long periods of time sort of scenario.
Yeah. Did you remember your dechlorinator?
It's on a carbon block.
Oh. Jeez, yeah, I have no idea then.
The sponge filter was very poorly running the other day, so I was fiddling around with that. So, like, it could have been an initial start of a lack of oxygen, but like I got that sorted as quick as I possibly could. So whether or not that kick-started something, I'm not sure, but I would have thought that to have seen like 1 parts per million of nitrite, I would have seen some ammonia at the same time. Because even if it's having some sort of a spike, the ammonia in there I would have suspected to have been showing up still.
How big were the fish?
Oh, adults, proper adults.
Well, I don't know. It could even, I guess, theoretically be from the body decomposing in that, if it wasn't kind of instantly caught enough extra waste to.
They were in pretty good condition when I took them out. Like if
like they hadn't been there for days or anything.
No. Like if it hadn't been upside down, sitting where it was, I just would have thought it was sitting under a piece of wood, sort of thing, being a pleco. I took them out. There was no obvious wounds, no obvious bacteria, nothing like that. It was just not alive.
That is so random.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's pretty gutting because they're like not the most common fish, are they?
There's plenty around now, but what's pissed me off is I've had them for so long, not had a spawn from them, and I was actively trying to get them to spawn.
Yeah.
And yet they just hadn't given up the goods whatsoever. Like, I might not be quite as disappointed if I'd had a spawn from them from this point. But because I hadn't, it's annoyed me, and I've lost both of my males. I'm left with a female. And equally, they're probably my favourite plecos as well. So,
yeah. Do you reckon you'll be able to get any more of them, or you kind of just be?
They're fairly readily available. Whether or not
I mean, like, do you reckon you will, or you're just going to be?
I don't know. I'm not sure yet. Part of me goes, nah, fuck it, whatever, and the other part of me goes, I want to because I really like them, so I'm not sure.
I suppose the thing with that is just don't make any decision too fast, Yeah.
Just
let it sit with you for a little bit and then go from there.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see how we go.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
It is part of keeping fish, unfortunately. The hardest part about it sometimes is just trying to figure out why.
Yeah, like lost the first one. I thought, it could be because it's getting a little bit older.
It's had a heart attack or something.
Yeah, 18 months, 2 years, something like that. And, they were adults when I got them. They could be 3-4 years, but they're still fairly short for a 168. But like humans, just because it should last 10 years doesn't always necessarily mean that it will. But, second to lose 2 in 2 days, that means something's going wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Too much of a coincidence, eh?
Yeah. So I'll do a water change on it this morning, get rid of those nitrites, monitor it for the next few days. I've got a spare tank, so I might take the other one out of there, and we'll see how we go.
Yeah. Well, from my side, I haven't had too much interesting stuff happen. Probably, I'm going to say the most interesting thing was, there's 2. What one should we go for? I'm going to go with, I got some new fish yesterday and some Africans, and I got an albino dragon's blood that was so cool, but I mean, it's kind of good, but it's kind of bad. Like, it was such a cool fish, but I sold it within like an hour, so I didn't really get to look at it that much, but like, it was cool. And I also got an electric blue that was pretty massive. So yeah, and then I got a few other bits and pieces like Taiwans and something else I can't remember. Oh, Eureka Reds and stuff. So that was fun. But
so not fish for you?
Nah, to sell. Although the electric blue is that electric blue is kind of staring at me. I'm just like looking at it. I'm like, So if it stays there for any length of time, probably it'll move. But at least for the moment, it's just in there.
Do you have a tank at home that I can go into?
Not really. But I could do, shall we say? But yeah.
I just learned when you're using this on your phone, you pretty much can't shut it down because it just kicks you out straight away.
Yep. I did learn that before I got my computer, so I could have told you that, but yeah.
Sorry, you were saying you got a bunch of Africans. Where do you get them from?
From Dex, which is going to segue perfectly into the listener mail segment, and we have an email from him. So I'll read it out to you guys. So this email actually came. We
got a cooler listener mail. Well, you got a cooler one, Cam. Not really directly to Three Idiots, but about that kid in was it Christchurch?
Yeah.
That's cooler. That's cooler than Dex. So
I don't have that up, so I can't read that.
No worries.
Well, back to full preparation, wasn't
it? You just sprung it on me.
To be fair, you did bring it up.
Yeah, you bring it up.
You should have done a call. I forgot the kid's name. You should have done a shout out to him because he sounds like his number one biggest fan.
I don't think Cam told us his name. It's a secret, I guess.
Yeah, I just said, hey, look, this is an awesome email that we got. And now we're all like,
Well, basically what happened is a little kid emailed and said he listened to all the podcasts. So that was fun.
Yeah, and he loves it.
5 times.
Yeah.
5 times.
And he's 9, and he's from Christchurch, and he loves all things about aquariums, which is fantastic because that's the way to move the hobby forward. So, yeah.
That's a good start. Yeah. So,
if Ryan had mentioned he was going to bring it up, I would have this all prepared and we'd have it through. But no, Ryan decided not to do that.
I'll give you some homework, so that's what you can look after for next week. Well, Ryan just dropped out, so that's awkward. So I'm just going to get to reading Dex's email. So Dex is a cichlid breeder in Hamilton, so that's background. So the email goes as follows. It says, "Hello, intentional idiots. Firstly, great work on the podcast. It has been mostly interesting. So
Mostly
I
interesting.
guess that's a compliment, shall we say? He has a section specifically directed at you that says, "Please stop dissing African cichlids. Everyone knows that you love them." I guess in secret. So you've got that. Then next he has some feedback specifically for Ryan.
There's no secret. I do like African cichlids. I just don't like talking about them all the time, and I just don't
Enjoy complaining.
I don't stock them for logical reasons, and there's a lot of them that I think are stupid, but there's a lot that I like.
Fair enough. Well,
Not
I think
hiding
Dex
it.
is listening now, so hopefully he's taken on board your feedback. The next section is specifically directed to Ryan. He says, also, ram's horn, what the fuck? Please refer to the fountain of all knowledge that is called Wikipedia. The term ram's horn snail is used in two different ways. In the aquarium trade, it is used to describe various kinds of freshwater snails whose shells are, and this pronunciation may be wrong, planispiral, which means that the shell is in a flat coil shape. And then these shells resemble the shape of, as the name would suggest, a ram's horn. So there's your little knowledge for the day, that basically Ryan is wrong. So I hope he takes that onto. I hope he takes that onto feedback.
How good?
I always said that they look like a ram's horn. He's saying ram's shorn. He's saying
You
he's
say
sharing his
ram's
fucking
shorn.
sheep with him.
Hey, there we go. Hello, Elliot.
So
Ryan,
quick side note before we get onto the rest of this email.
I
Ryan,
say
be
ram's
quiet.
shorn because Cam Inbreed said it.
Not sure that's true, but whatever. But a little kid from Christchurch has sent in a comment from his mum's account. His name is Elliot, and he's listening right now. So, hello. Hope you're doing well. Lovely to have you with us. And
Oh, is that Elliot that you were talking about before?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
so he's listening, so he can fill us in. How do I? My one does. Oh, okay, there we go. Sorry, couldn't get the thing off. Hold on, I've lost my place in this email. Oh, so Dex was also saying that he enjoys when you guys chant the random question song. So
We don't have a random question song. We've got to make one.
well, he said like you do a chant for it, which apparently he enjoys listening to. So there's that. But then
I think the correct English for that was we did a chant for it. It happened once, and
well, he misses it.
Yeah.
I think it's probably his ringtone. So he
His
wants to refresh it.
yeah.
But next, he's got some, I guess, serious questions coming up. So I'll give you guys these questions, and you can tell me your answers. So the first one is, what has someone said to you that has made you extremely proud of your tank/fish?
What has someone said to me that has made me extremely proud of my tank/fish?
I suppose it could be either or.
My children once said to me that my tank looked dirty and muddy, and that made me extremely proud because that was exactly what I was looking for.
Nice. Well,
Equally,
that's an odd way to take that conversation.
equally on the side, I'm also now not allowed to have any tanks in the house that are muddy or dirty looking. So, yeah.
And I wonder why that is.
Because they're awesome, and they can't handle the awesomeness.
Save the toilet, look for the toilet, eh? You don't need it in an aquarium.
You've got no argument when you just resort to mocking his laugh or something. Whatever that was.
Yeah. Just,
all right, what's yours, Ryan?
Inbreed sort of noise.
Exactly.
Well, obviously, I have aquariums, so I have lots of people flocking over to see them, and all that sort of stuff. But all the fishes in the world always come over, So No, I just like it when people who don't keep fish just walk in and go and just look at it. And one of the friend's kids came through the other day, and she's like, "Oh my god, are they real?" Like she was just like buzzing out. What? Never seen anything like it before in her life, and I thought, yeah, that's pretty cool. You know, like because that aquarium I've got in my lounge is pretty big. It's pretty big and pretty impressive, you know. And that's not just what she
What a humble guy.
Is that the one that's normally sitting behind you?
Yeah. It's
I can contest to that. Contest is the right word. It is pretty impressive, even though it's full of stupid African cichlids and it looks like a bag of M&Ms in water.
Can I just refer to what you said about 2 minutes ago in response to the other question?
Even the physical size of it is impressive. Let alone the fish, you know, like it's just it's pretty big.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
And that's all that matters, eh?
Yeah.
Well,
Brian loves a big one.
So he's got a second one in this email that says, "What is the most rewarding part for you of fish? I mean, no, of keeping fish."
Have you answered the question yet?
Did I?
No.
I don't know.
You didn't answer the question.
Oh, well, apologies. But I don't know. I think the thing is always like when people come in and they're always like shocked, like seeing new stuff. Like that's always the coolest thing because like people, I guess, think it's going to be like some little like grimy, like kind of boring thing. And then they see like something that's pretty exciting. So that's all like different. So that's probably it for me, I think.
That wasn't a question, though. He asked you what was the nicest thing someone said about your tank or aquarium.
Yeah. That. Like when it's like, you know what I mean?
So
like when they're like, I've never seen anything like that before or whatever. Or it's like different to what they're expecting or used to. That makes sense, doesn't it?
That sounds pretty rewarding to me.
So many innuendos right there. But anyway.
That's not that I object to that. That answers that question. No worries. Don't worry about it.
Do you feel like Ryan's objectifying you?
You're saying that if you like it when people come in and they look at your aquariums and they see something different.
Yeah, pretty much. And they're like, "Oh, I didn't know it could be like, you know, that or you could do that kind of thing or whatever." So yeah.
Okay.
But so yeah, next question is, what is the most rewarding part for you, Cam?
For me, it's just connecting with other people and having fun. You know, like I've known Dex for ages, for years now. Since he was 15. You know, doing fish out of his parents' garage. Still get on with him, still talk to him, and you know, do fish with him and stuff. The other night, I got invited over to some fish keepers' house for dinner, and Jason and Hobsonville Point, and we went over to dinner with them, and we cooked fish and stuff. So it was pretty cool, you know. So it's
nice.
about meeting cool people that like keeping fish too, and just hanging out, a shared hobby and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. What do you reckon, Cam?
From a shop owner's perspective, I love seeing the joy on people's faces when they get new fish, and when they come in and just talk about their fish tank and the sheer excitement and the joy that comes from that when things are going good with them. Obviously, sometimes when things aren't going well, it's a little bit different. But yeah, like when selling new fish to people and they're stoked they've got this new pet that they've either saved a bunch of money to get a whole group of, or they've been researching and really wanting, and sort of living that experience with people is really fun. And like going from like an empty box in someone's house to this fully functioning ecosystem that, you know, you see these people once a week, every couple of weeks, and they're telling about how things are changing. Like I find that really rewarding and really enjoyable as far as owning a fish shop goes. As far as being a fish keeper in general, I'm not sure. Having just a piece of nature and a bit of glass, I find quite cool, and trying to mimic as much as the natural environment as I possibly can. I find quite rewarding. Like the diamond tetra tank that was just set up is as close to as mimicked as I could possibly do it, and I found the entire process of that ridiculously rewarding. But then the end result of it is up there as well.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Definitely know what you mean with that. So glad to hear it. But yeah, I guess for me, it would probably be, I don't know. I mean, not necessarily in relation to like the shop perspective, but just in general, with like getting kids involved is always cool. Like seeing, kind of, I guess, sort of similar to what you're saying, like excitement or like interest or whatever. And then there's always heaps of kids that just get really interested in like some random obscure thing, and then just know like everything about it, basically. Become the kind of know more about it than anyone in the world. So that's probably the thing for me, I guess, is that whole side of things. And yeah, it doesn't even have to be necessarily from the shop perspective, because like even, keeping fish at home, like my little cousin come over and see them or whatever. Stuff like that's always part of it, I guess. So yeah, that's probably what I'd say for me. So yeah. And then, so this is just the last question of his email, which has actually turned out to be quite a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. He says, "What is your favorite thing about being 1/3 of New Zealand's most popular fish keeping podcast?"
My favorite thing of being 1/3 is that I know that I am place number 1 and number 2 in New Zealand, so that excites me the most.
What a humble guy.
Hey!
What one's number 1 and what one's number 2?
Depends who you're talking to, I guess.
Fair enough. Can't argue with that. How about you, Ryan?
I love it, but also I hate just being so famous, walking down the road and people asking for autographs and stuff, it just sucks so much,
Gets a bit tiring sometimes.
I love it, but also, just leave me alone when I'm out with my kids, Hey, I've got teenagers, I don't go out with my kids, that's not a lie, so, they don't want to be seen with me.
I don't blame them.
I just enjoy it. It's just fun. People interact with us. I think it's awesome. Just a laugh.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's just like, talking to all the different people in that, so hearing all different random stories and things like that. So, works out well.
Well, I find interesting that people will send me an email or something like that, and they said, "Oh, blah blah blah," on the podcast. Like, oh, people actually listen to what we talk about. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's what happens. Like, you get people coming and they're like, "Oh, you mentioned this on the podcast," like, and then ask a question about it or something. And it's like, did I? And why are you listening?
The worst part is when you can't remember saying what they said you said. You're like, oh, yeah, maybe I said that. I don't know. Did you like it?
Sounds like something I'd say. If it's positive, I did say that. If not, I didn't say it.
There's no proof. You can't go back to the video.
Exactly.
Either way, I probably said it, so I'll own it.
Yep. For sure. Well, that was the end of Dex's email. So thank you very much. If you guys want to send an email or message or something, you can tell us, I don't know, any stories or ask any questions or insult us. Don't really care as long as you send something. It'll be podcast3idiots@gmail.com, or you can send a Facebook message, or I don't know, you can send a pigeon to one of us. I'm sure we'll get it. Just take a punt. Never know. I'm sure it'll turn up one day. And
so,
if it's a good one, we'll read it out. And even if it's bad, we will read it out.
That email, remember how we read out an email from a listener the other week, and we thought it was a Dex? It wasn't Dex. It was someone else. It was actually someone else. So
the one about fish
he sent us
expos.
an email, but he just sent us an email, but it had gone to spam. So, and then I thought it was his email under a fake name. So there you go.
So sorry for that
Looked it up.
person talking about the fish expos. We got ourselves confused, but they don't call it
Yeah, we
three
did
smart
still read
people
it.
talk about aquariums.
We did still read it out. Fish expos. So Dick's
And that's
also
all that
said to me
matters.
by a private message, that he was really keen on doing an aquascaping thing at the expo. So keen as.
Sweet.
Got one entry there for the aquascaping competition.
Oh, that's all you need, isn't it?
Well,
sweet.
And I'll always enter as a wild card just for a laugh.
Yep. Just to take the absolute piss out of it, but no one needs to know that.
Well, possible.
Well, I'm pretty sure everyone knows that already.
Yep.
Ryan rocks up, and even they didn't know Ryan, they go, oh, this guy's just here to take the piss out of what we're doing.
Exactly.
He has a take the piss out of it vibe when he enters the room. Some people have BDU, who has take the piss energy.
I just feel like I need to read the rules properly to make sure that I can take the piss enough to do it without being disqualified. So.
Oh, well, I look forward to it.
Disqualified straight away.
Yeah, man. So that is basically that segment. I think we do have some other emails, but we're going to save them for next week because we'll run out of time. So I guess time for quick random question time.
How many do we get?
Random question.
We got one.
Random question. There you go, Dix.
Yep. Okay. Clip it. But we do have one other email from Adam over in Australia, but we'll save that for next week because we'll run out of time otherwise. But yes, random question time is when you were a little kid, what was your least favorite vegetable to eat? Obviously. Or I guess when you're an adult, who cares? Someone should answer this question.
That's a tough one.
Sorry, I was just thinking. Tomatoes.
Yeah.
It's a fruit, mate.
Oh, come on. Don't get us on technicalities because that's my one as well.
Fine. I'll allow it, but I'm not happy about it.
Tomatoes should only be consumed straight out of a can via sauce, soup, or chutney. Other than that, it can just rot in hell
copious amounts of salt and sugar in them.
Yeah, it is foul. It is sterile. It is disgusting. Get rid of it. Why people put it in sandwiches is beyond belief. If you like tomato, you are a special sort of disgusting human being. I've just alienated about 90% of the world. Oh, gross.
You know, it's literally just tastes like water. It's just like a big ball of water.
Grim.
Okay, well, that's a random take.
Random. It's horrible.
I don't know how I feel about that.
2 out of 3 people say that tomato sucks because tomato sucks.
Fair enough.
Scientific. Very scientific.
I regret allowing it, even though it's a fruit. I regret allowing it.
You opened a can of worms here.
Yeah, well, I suppose I did that to myself.
And tomatoes.
Comedy guy.
Yeah, let's get rid of big. Let's get rid of big tomato. Let's bring them down.
It's not a thing. But yeah, for
big tomato.
For my one, I'm going to go with spinach because it just tastes like grass.
Yum.
And it's just like grass. Just go out in the lawn and pretend to be a cow and you'll have the same experience. Don't worry about it.
You creep. Spinach is amazing.
Yeah. So I guess it's time to move on to the actual thing people want to listen to today, which is today we'll be talking about the top lessons we've learned when it comes to fish keeping, obviously. Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be fish related. I suppose we can give our life advice on our Patreon segment, if anyone cares. But specifically talking about fish related things, our top things that we've learned about keeping fish. So, who wants to go first with a little tidbit of information for the lovely folks and Dex? Someone.
You
no
go
one?
First. Sorry, you're going to say first. You asked our top things we've learned about keeping fish.
Well, top lessons learned. If you would have known that if you'd read the topic thing when I published them like 3 weeks ago.
I don't know how to read it on the phone. I've got us normally on the computer. It comes up at the top, and it doesn't come up on the phone. So I didn't actually know. So yeah.
No, I was meaning the thing I put on where I had like the next like 10 weeks worth of topics all written down to because Cam wanted to prepare.
Oh, I didn't even see that. So yeah, there you go.
Well, preparation on point. Well, I guess I'll go first. So you can get the hang of what actually is going on. And I guess I'll resend you the list of topics so you can actually have a think about it for next week.
Ryan's been
off the top of my head, I don't actually remember what next week is.
Yes, boss.
Yeah, it's random how I'm like the boss and you're like 87 years old. But sorry. So the first, I guess, well, the way I guess we're thinking about it is lessons learned is in like things you've done wrong or mistakes you've made or whatever, and then how to going forward not have that happen or resolve that issue or whatever. So for me, the number one most important thing that I learned was about kind of something I touched on before with like around KH and like how it actually matters. So the main issue was I had this tank, like I can't remember, maybe it was 60 liters or something like that. Like it wasn't very big, but it had this massive piece of driftwood in it that was like pretty much the entire, it like dropped in and it was exactly the same size as the tank basically. And then I just had it had like all little caves and stuff running through it, and it had I can't remember, mostly like glow light. It had like glow light tetras and I think honeygrommy or something like that off the top of my head, like just a few little fish. But I was always running into trouble with basically everything. Like the plants would always just disintegrate, and I would get ammonia spikes all the time and all this kind of thing. And so after this was also like when I was relatively new to fish keeping, so I didn't know what was going on. But after a while, I don't actually remember how I got to it, but I was like, learned about how KH is important for the nitrifying bacteria to operate and how having a pH really low is detrimental to that and how it can lead to trouble for the plants and all this kind of thing. So like I learned about all that stuff. And then what I did is I can't remember how much it was, like a little bit of crushed oyster shell and put it in the filter. It was on a canister filter, so I just chucked it in the bottom like thing of the basket, and it wasn't like super high, like maybe I don't know, I brought it up to like maybe like the pH of like 6.5 and like I don't know, maybe it was like 2 degrees of carbonate hardness in that. And then basically all my problems were solved. Like the plants were happy, stopped having ammonia spikes, the fish were much happier, and everything was just basically more stable for me. So that's going to be my number one tidbit is KH, I think, is as important to test or to understand what's going on as pretty much all the other things that we test generally. So, yeah.
Well, that's the stability, That's the stability of the tank, basically.
Yeah, man. I was chucking in so much stability and nothing was happening, so it's so confusing. Joking. Well, actually, I did do that, but that's a separate issue. But yeah, it's basically like, especially because it was one of my early tanks, I didn't really have as much of a grasp of what was going on. So having that extra stability just made managing everything so much easier, and kind of prevented problems before they become an actual big problem. So yeah, it looked like you had something to say, Cam.
Like it.
Me?
No.
You
like shaped up to say something, and then you didn't say anything.
No, I was going to say something about Ryan mentioning the word stability, and I didn't think we were meant to say that. But excuse me.
We need to get a little beep button.
That's a no-no word. A no-no word.
Yeah. Full transparency. My mind is on something slightly else at the moment. I'm just trying to organise a guest for my own show. That's why I'm a little bit away with the theories. Sorry.
I'll do it. Yeah. Don't worry. I'll do it. But yeah, the
You'll do it.
that,
You want to come
that's-
back on? Do you want to come
Yeah,
back
mate.
on? Okay, we'll set
Sure.
up another day. Cool.
But yeah, that was my
I thought
number
you
one
had
thing.
I thought you had superstar and one of our biggest fans, Braxton, on this Friday.
Yeah, he is, but that's not who I'm talking to at the moment, trying to get a date with. But yeah, we've got Braxton coming on, which I'm absolutely fizzing about.
Yeah, talk
I'm
about
not that
aquascaping.
excited.
Good times.
I might even watch that one because I don't think he's got anything intelligent to offer, to be honest. So, Braxton.
Shots fired.
So yeah,
Waiting for the chat to explode.
One of the top lessons that I have learned is that Ryan is a dick.
well, it took you long enough to figure that one out. But yeah, that is my number one. So hopefully that is something that people find useful in their day-to-day fish keeping life. But yeah, what's yours, Cam? Next one.
One of the biggest lessons I learned was how to pronounce the word cichlid, followed by not all cichlids are the same.
What?
What part of what part do you understand?
I didn't know that. Please enlighten me.
Oh, I missed your action.
You need
comedy.
you need to go into almost every single aquarium shop in New Zealand and tell them that not all cichlids are the same and not all of them can go in the same tank. Then
They actually
I do
can,
need-
Ryan. I don't know what you're talking about.
I do need to do that, but yeah.
But yes, so what?
Yeah, I agree.
Go into more depth
happens
on
so
that,
often
please.
with Americans and African cichlids end up in the same tank.
Yeah. I think cichlids are lumped into big cichlids, small cichlids type of thing. I've got a big cichlid that can go with my big cichlids. I've got small cichlids that can't go with my big cichlids. When obviously there's a lot of differences between African cichlids, American cichlids, Malawis, Tanganyikans, even like the Victorians, dwarf cichlids. There's river-based cichlid. Like they're all so different and vast that they're not all the same fish, and they're not all compatible. And I think a lot of people with cichlids have that as an issue because they're mixing and matching so often.
Agreed.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi.
And you see it so often on Facebook too. You see it so often on Facebook. Has anyone got any cichlids for sale? You're like, what sort of cichlids do you want? There's about 1,000 different types. How big's your tank? What else have you got in there? You know. Often they're eating African cichlids, but who knows?
Yeah. Another thing I learned when it comes to cichlids and American cichlids is sometimes or often the shape of the mouth will determine whether or not they're completely compatible or not. Like Severums, for example, have got a really small, thin mouth compared to Jags that have got quite a broad, open mouth. The broad, open mouth ones often are more compatible together because of the way that they sort of fight and defend territory, where the smaller, more precise mouthed ones aren't as compatible with the bigger, wider, broader mouth because of how they fight, if that makes sense. Just as a
exactly.
broad sort of overrun
Well,
of...
a jag and a Severum having a lip-locking battle ain't going to end well for the Severum, is it? They're going to
Correct.
destroy it.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a foolproof way of doing it, but that's just a little, you can kind of visually see a couple of things straight away, whether or not they're going to be okay or not.
Yeah, because like you say, even within specific kind of groups or areas like American cichlids or within Malawi cichlids or within, dwarf cichlids, there's things that will get along with each other and there's things that won't. So
yeah,
it's kind of one that's hard to make broad strokes regardless, because there's just so much variety. Like some things will be just keep to themselves and not bother anything else at all, and then some things will just their sole purpose in life is murder. So you got to think about what you're doing. Like
slight exception to the rule because like flower horns don't have a particularly big aggressive mouth, or red devils, but they are fairly fiery and will kick everyone's ass.
They're also not naturally occurring, so they're not naturally occurring.
They'd have a relatively big mouth, I guess. Like if you were to compare them to, a Severum or something.
Yeah, but compared to an Oscar or a Jag, they're not even anywhere near that.
I'd say they're similar to an Oscar, more or
No
less.
way.
Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with you because you probably have a flower horn and I hate them. So hey, actually, I don't hate them. I think they can be.
I don't think they have any right now, but yeah, I mean they're different. Like they're not the same, but it's not night and day. But yeah, I mean that's kind of a bit of a different one because they're kind of bred to be as aggressive as possible. So obviously they're going to be more aggressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a good one. I like it. I like the way you think. What do you got, Ryan?
I also love how you brought it into cichlids, so that's good. Thank you for stepping out of your comfort barrier and going with something different.
Yeah.
So I'll go back to my original point. Not all cichlids are the same. There is dwarf cichlids from like South America, rams and epistogrammas and whatnot. So to you.
Can't argue with that.
Right,
what do you
my
reckon,
biggest
Ryan?
thing that I've learned is to keep it simple. Like, don't stuff with things. Don't fuck with things. If it's, like, so many people when they have things go wrong, and I've seen it so many times. Oh, I went into this shop and I bought this thing and I put it in. Then I went into another shop and they said to use this, so I put this in. And then I went into this shop and put this in. And then they put like 10 or 20 different concoctions in the aquarium, and it just ends badly. So
you're talking about like
keep it simple.
You're talking about like
wrong,
the chemical kind of fixes for cloudy water or algae or that kind of thing.
Or even a problem like like the ammonia spike. And one shop will tell them not to do a water change, and one shop will tell them to do a water change, and then one shop will tell them to add this product, another shop will tell them to add this product and this product. And instead of doing like getting it very clear and trying to get it very simple in their head, they go and they do everything, and the fish all just it's too much,
Gets a bit confusing in that.
Can you argue that
exactly,
because this hobby is so I've just totally lost the word I'm after, but it's not regulated whatsoever, and everything is based on experience as opposed to educational via proper learning, for lack of a better term, that one shop has had this experience and it's fixed the problem, and another shop has had this experience and it's fixed the problem, so both shops are correct?
I'd say it's
I'm not necessarily saying that one shop is right or one shop is wrong. They could both be right in their own regards, but when you do both things at the same time, you're probably just doing the wrong thing, Like, you've got to get... I hate one source of truth or anything, but you've really got to figure out who knows what they're doing and go with that person and actually see it through, rather than do half of one thing and half another thing and half another thing. End up doing 10 things and stressing your fish out even more.
Yeah, I mean, because that kind of, I guess, segues a bit into what I was going to say is my next, what would you call it? Point, I guess. And that is that with fish, anything really pretty much takes time and like takes patience. So going back to what you were saying, Ryan, it's like I find a lot of people will, if they have, I don't know, even like an illness or an algae problem or something, they'll like do one thing and then it won't solve the problem, in a day. And then they'll go to another shop and do another thing. And then that's how they start doing 5 things all at once, because it's not had enough time to really make any difference on the algae outbreak or, the illness they've got going on. And that's how a lot of people seem to run into trouble. Because like you said, probably either any of the options will work on their own, but mixing it all together gets really confusing, and it's hard to make it kind of level out, if that makes sense. So yeah, and definitely in general, when it comes to fish, everything takes time and patience to get the most out of it, I reckon.
Nothing good happens fast in fish keeping.
No. And I had the example of someone contacting me wanting to take all his fish, and I was like, "What's going on? Why? You love them?" And he's like, "Oh, they're all dying." I was like, "What happened?" "Oh, the water went cloudy." And then I added this clarity to try and make it clear. And then I added some cycle stuff to make this do, and then I did this and I did that, and I said, well, hang on, what? And eventually, after about 10 or 15 minutes of us just going back with the boards, I discovered that his filter had died, and he chucked a new filter on. So his tank wasn't cycling, you know, but he thought they were all dying because his tank went cloudy, you know. But it was probably some sort of bacterial bloom from the tank not being cycled and everything being out of whack. You know, so
and I suppose if you dealt with any one problem at once, then it would, you know, be obvious to see what's caused what and everything. But trying to do it all at once, you know, you miss something like that, like a new filter or that, till a long time, and then the problems kind of doubled.
Exactly,
yeah,
and he had another tank running. So the answer was to seat the filter on the other tank, on the tank that is having trouble, and stop, you know, feed them every second day a little tiny bit, and do lots of water changes. You know, don't worry about the cloudy tank. Don't put it out the crap in. Just let it do its thing. Have a bit of patience. You know.
Yeah, exactly.
And they all came right. But understanding was the understanding, and basically what he was doing.
Oh, for sure. It's so hard to know that information, but yeah, I mean, I reckon just taking time and having patience is such an important thing. Like when you set up, I reckon, like when you set up a new tank, you know, it doesn't matter if it's a little, like, you know, 30-liter tank or a big 500-liter tank. I always reckon, like, it's probably going to take about at least 6 months for it to look any good. Like, you got to wait for the plants to grow in, got to get over the algae stage, got to wait for, you know, the fish to fatten up a little bit and get nice and colored and all this kind of thing. And I think it's something that marine, you know, reef keepers talk about, is like stuff taking a minute to mature and age and that. But it's not really something we talk about with freshwater tanks. It's like you set it up and then it has to look perfect, like, straight away.
I think you've missed the 2 or 3 week window where it looks phenomenal because it's not mature. Everything looks sparkly clean, nothing's bedded in, and like it looks really, really good. Then it goes through the period of everything needs to grow straightly, diatoms, all the kind of stuff that comes with it. Then all of a sudden it goes, boo, and it's beautiful.
But it's not. Yeah, I mean, even with it, it's like you say diatoms, which is obviously part of it, but it's not just that. Like, you know, you'll get, you know, other algae because, like, for example, the plants aren't growing fast enough to take up any real nutrients, for example. So you get green spot growing on the glass or something. And then, you know, you'll find, oh, this plant all died off because, you know, they're crips that you've put in. So they need a minute to figure it out. And then you got all these dead leaves sitting there that is decomposing, that's fouling everything up. And then, you know, the fish are all skinny and not really settled, so they're not that colorful and that. So I really think, like, just fully expect it to look crap for like 6 months. And then, you know, maybe it settles out faster than that and it's a bonus. But, you know, prepare for that and it will just set you up for a better long-term kind of view of the situation, just to really make things how you're trying to make them, I guess. And then as well, when you run into issues, just no rush. You what, sorry?
Something to be said about a mature tank.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, stuff just, like, that's the main thing. Because, like, when people come in, like, especially, like, little families and, like, with little kids and that come into the shop, and they're like, oh, how do you, like, keep your tank so clean? And, like, the gravel's not dirty and, like, there's no, you know, the plants are happy in that. And it's like, oh, they've just been set up for, like, a few years. So it's over all that. And they're like, oh, yeah. And they explain, like, everything needs time to settle out and the plants need to settle in, and, like, you need to wait for the bacteria to be able to better process the waste and everything like that. And then it's like, oh, yeah. And then once people know, I find they're okay, like, to wait 6 months while it looks not exactly how you want it, because there's the end goal and they know, oh, yeah, if I wait this time, then it will look such and such a way, you know? So, yeah. I think it's definitely, there's a lot to be said for just being patient and making things go through the process. So yeah. But what do you have next, Cam? What's your next little nugget of information for the lovely viewers and listeners?
I've got Fish Talk Different Languages. when it comes to different geological places, and they tend to do better when they're all based in the same same geographical region.
Yeah. I remember with that, I remember like a year ago probably, Ryan was going around like copying and pasting this thing about how American cichlids and African cichlids like communicate, and like every time someone would say about, oh, you know, can I put my Oscar with my Mbuna, then he'd copy and paste. It was like freaking massive. It was like 1,000 words or something. He'd like copy and paste this little thing, and it was actually really interesting. But then I don't know what happened to it. Obviously, he's too cool now to help the people or something. But yeah, it was like, oh, Ryan can explain it, but it was like the way they communicate with each other like means the opposite from each other. Like, if that makes sense. Like when an African does this, it's the opposite of what it means when an American does this. In terms
so
of
like an Oscar. I'm also just a point to note. I'm just driving past that place where I know where the really cool rocks are, and I can see them in the gutter, and I'm like, "Oh, we want some more." But anyway, carry on.
You can
it's
even
like an Oscar.
bring
I think the thing was. Carry on.
You can bring that back even further away from Africans and Americans to like the difference in rasboras and tetras and like all of them. They're all different. Like having loaches in with, fish from South America. They just all react differently. But if you put them all in the same, if you put them together from the same sort of geographical regions, the behavior is so much better.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I know what you mean. But yeah, sorry, what were you saying, Ryan? Continue with. I want to hear what you were going to say.
The specific one we were talking about from that thing that I copy and pasted, and I've still got it somewhere. Actually, I should start posting it around some more. It'd be funny. But anyway,
put it in the podcast group so that people can read it.
Yeah, it's talking about how like if an Oscar and a giraffe cichlid would have a fight, the Oscar would react in some way to show that he was submissive, for example, but the giraffe wouldn't be able to understand that was him backing off. So he would just keep going at him, and keep going at him, but he's saying, "Hey, bro, I've had enough. And the giraffe would be like, "No, you haven't. Why are you not showing me?" You know, so they essentially can't communicate that well. And the same was the vice versa of the giraffe to the Oscar. The giraffe wouldn't show that he's backing down in a way that the Oscar can sort of recognise. So that would end up being a very bad pairing because they'd never really sort themselves out and get to a position where they knew who was who, you know?
Yeah, it was like something obviously I don't remember exactly, but it was something along the lines of like, you know, the American cichlid would like turn sideways and lie down to show that it's given up, but then the giraffe in this example would interpret that as it like escalating or something like that, and then obviously in that situation then it'll just never end until one of them's dead, and then it doesn't really matter. But yeah, it's.
And to be honest, I can't remember the exact thing, but it was something like that.
Yeah. That don't take that as gospel, but it was like they just basically I think it was one thing's like surrender was interpreted as another thing's like escalation or something. I can't remember exactly how that behavior was demonstrated, but then they just keep going at each other, and then one of them dies, and then it won, and that's the end of that. So yeah, I mean, it is a bit tricky in that regard, but yeah, it does. I mean, obviously, it makes sense. I mean, the other thing though is I have a question, Cam. So when you say that, like, I can't think of an example, but what would you say about like two South American fish, but they live on different sides of South America or whatever, like miles and miles away from each other? Would you say they would generally behave better when kept with each other, or would it be things that specifically would get found together in that natural environment?
They tend to go better together.
Yeah.
There'll be some exceptions to that, but they tend to go better together when you're lumping them together.
Of course. Yeah, well, that's interesting. I never really thought about it in that way, to be honest. I've only really thought about it in terms of the ones that's like actually going to cause trouble in the way when they need to communicate with each other. Like the differences between like tetras and respiras I've never really considered, to be honest. So I guess that's what I'll be doing this afternoon is figuring that stuff out.
Good time.
But yeah, man. Do you have any others, Ryan, that you'd like to bring up for this discussion? Are you there? Well, I guess we've lost Ryan, so that's unfortunate.
No, I'm back now. I'm back now.
That is equally as unfortunate.
I'm back.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, do you have any others you wanted to bring up, Ryan?
What I wanted to say about this, so we're not in the biotope specific and stuff like that, it's just that the fish are probably more likely to do better. They can still well mix as long as you mix the right sort of things together, you know.
Yeah.
He's not really back.
Yeah, he's breaking up a bit, but I think what he was saying is things that are like biotope specific would generally do better. Not obviously a guarantee, but it's a kind of a rough rule of thumb that people can operate with and then make their judgments from there. But it's definitely like a good place to start, at least. You know, like you can't go wrong starting there and then build off that. So yeah, we might, I think, skip Ryan's turn this time, and then we'll go back to him in a minute when he's not in the middle of nowhere and we can actually hear him, which is, hey, that's the whole point of the podcast, isn't it? But I think for me, the first one the next one I was going to go with was specifically when you first get them, but in general, how important it is to feed good foods to the fish. Like, when you first get them, generally speaking, they'll obviously be like really stressed out because moving a fish is going to be a stressful experience, even at the best of times, for you and the fish, I suppose. But having good food helps them kind of recover easier. And then obviously there's other stuff of they might have been through like a long shipping process or been in a holding tank for a while. And oftentimes they'll be skinnier or less well conditioned and more stressed and everything. So feeding better food, I find definitely helps them recover a lot faster. Like in the shop, I feed a lot of rapashi, for example, and I find it makes a massive difference in how easily they settle in and color up and general overall health. And then obviously like long-term feeding better food is better. Clearly you'll get more healthy fish in general, better color, better breeding, all this kind of thing. But particularly when you first get them is one of the most important points, I think, that is often not talked about. So yeah, that would be my next one.
No, I agree with that one. I think it, and also I think that we don't really understand the long-term effects of feeding a shit food for a long period. Like you might have a fish that dies randomly after 2 or 3 years. Is that because
for
it's
example,
been fed a crap food and it's retained all this it can't process all the fillers that are in it, so it's dumped them somewhere in its body and it's stuffed its liver or its kidneys, or you just don't know. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I think a lot of the issues we have are because of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, hard to prove. Is someone going to do a life cycle bloody study on a neon tetra? Probably not. But
get on it, Ryan.
I definitely think it contributes.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely like better than the alternative. Like you don't need to be a scientist to figure that one out. Like same for humans. Like two exactly the same people, one of them eats really good food, one of them eats really bad food. Obviously the person who eats better food is going to be more healthy, even if it's only incremental or something in the worst case. So I think it's definitely worth doing for basically any fish, and it doesn't necessarily have to be something that's a bit more fiddly like rapashi or like live food or anything. You can get very good quality flakes or pellets or whatever, which is always a good idea. So yeah, I will just quickly bring this comment up that we just received. I'm not sure who it is. I can probably check
Thomas.
on.
It's Thomas.
Oh, it's Thomas. So Thomas has left a comment that says, "Good morning. Like the upgrade with Ryan's face not being in it." And Thomas, you and me both.
Yeah, and I've just said in the chat, now we just need to work on his voice and his opinions.
Hey, got to start somewhere, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, now that we seem to have got Ryan back from his connectivity issues, what is your next suggestion, Ryan, in terms of lessons learned over your many years?
Yeah, he's gone.
Well, that was a waste of time. He didn't even get to hear my joke about how old he was. Oh, sweet as. Did you have any more, Cam?
Yeah, another one I've got is that 6 is not a target; it's a minimum when it comes to putting groups of fish together.
Like meaning schooling fish kind of things.
Yeah. I everyone lives by the get a minimum of 6. So I've always wondered if that's a sales ploy to get people to buy more. You go from 6 to 8, from 8 to 10, 10 to 12, 12 to 15, 20, and the fish behave so incredibly different when you have a far bigger group of them.
I don't know really where that comes from, because just from keeping fish, obviously, it doesn't seem like enough. Like keeping even the difference between like 6 to 8 is massive, I reckon, in terms of like their behavior and everything. So I'm not entirely sure where that's come from or how that's sort of come to be. And it just, like, I get it as a minimum in that, it's, I guess, fine. But I think definitely having more is better than anything with that. Like, I'd say...
you can see it if you've got a group of, say, 6 or 8, and then you put another 6 to 8 of the same fish in there. The dynamics just phenomenal within minutes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I'd say, like, the other thing as well is it varies a lot between fish. Like, having 6, like, what's an example? Like, glow light tetra is so completely different to having 6, I don't know, silver tip tetras, for example. Like, 6 silver tip tetras is nowhere near enough. You'll constantly have problems. 6 glow lights, probably not ideal, but should be fine, So it is, I think, a bit of an oversimplification of that, I guess, problem that people seem to forget about, which is obviously not ideal. But yeah, I mean, if you're keeping any kind of schooling fish like your tetras and barbs and rainbows and stuff like that, generally speaking, more is better, is going to be better.
Big is good. Thanks, Mr. Mighty Tin Man.
Yep, for sure. But yeah, I don't know if Ryan's back or not. He seems to be back, but I'm not entirely sure if we can hear him.
I'm back. You missed me, yeah? You missed me. And,
exactly.
Your comment was not very nice.
Oh, that's why he left. He was just he had to get a cry in. But did you have any others, Ryan, that you wanted to bring up before we finish up? Any other lessons on that? Okay. Well, we can't hear Ryan, so we are just going to end it there, I believe. Unfortunately, we can't hear Ryan's beautiful voice, so damn, that sucks. But yeah, so thank you guys very much for listening. Remember, if you want to send a question or an email about anything, podcast3idiots@gmail.com, or you can message us on Facebook or Instagram or whatever at the same, or you can message us individually with your questions if you prefer. Send a pigeon, send a letter in the post, come in and just throw a paper plane at us with it written on. Who cares? As long as we get the message, we'll be happy. And also, if you haven't already, please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment and all this good stuff that helps us reach more of you lovely folks. But yeah, other than that, thank you very much, and we will catch you guys in the next one. See you later.
Up the wires, baby.